It was a political move all along. It was all for politics. It was never for your safety. It was never for protecting the democracy. The Mueller report. The Mueller report has been handed in. Robert Mueller, the investigation that you've been hearing about for 3 years now, has finally reached a conclusion.
All right, so to be very clear, this is all we know, that Bob Mueller has submitted his report to the Attorney General, period. We are not going to hear today what the report says. And as you've noted, Lester, Barr has made a commitment to give Congress as much as he can, but we don't know how long that process is going to take. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and this is important to emphasize, this means that the special counsel's work is done, because the rules specifically say that he does not submit a report until at the conclusion of the special counsel's work. So that means Bob Mueller is no longer, as of a short time from now, the special counsel. There'll be no more indictments from the special counsel. Now, one question had been, might he at the last minute file indictments? That didn't seem likely, but it doesn't seem now that that's going to happen. So no more indictments. And that means that during the entire course of his work assigned to determine whether anyone in the Trump campaign meddled in the election, he never found evidence to submit a criminal prosecution accusing anyone of that. And that means that during the entire course of his work assigned to determine whether anyone in the Trump campaign meddled in the election, he never found evidence to submit a criminal prosecution accusing anyone of that.
If you guys remember back, you got to go really far back. Back before Manafort, way back before Papadopoulos, back before Michael Flynn, back before Michael Cohen, back before Stormy Daniels, back. All the way back, you gotta go all the way back to a time, the original question, okay, was, very simple question. Did Donald Trump work with the Russians in order to steal your democracy? Did Donald Trump work with the Russians to steal the election? Did Donald Trump work with the Russians to steal the presidency of the United States from Hillary Clinton, thus stealing your democracy, thus betraying the United States of America for a foreign country? That is the basis of which this lawsuit was sold to the American people. Can you guys hear me? They all said that this investigation will lead to the impeachment of Donald Trump. That was the purpose of the investigation, to see if they could impeach Donald Trump for what they said he did. And what they said they likely suspected was that he worked with the Russians in order to win the presidency. But establishment Democrats have consistently disavowed the cause. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Trump's most formidable opponent in Congress, has become the avatar of ambivalence about impeaching Donald Trump.
George, Speaker Pelosi says President Trump is just not worth it. Now, she is not closing the door completely on impeachment, but she says that unless there is something so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, that it's not worth it because impeachment would greatly divide the country.
So suddenly, now that the investigation is over, suddenly that millions and millions and millions of dollars have been spent in this investigation to get us to this point where we need to find out if this president basically has committed treason against the country, has committed an impeachable offense, which would be treason. I mean, come on, guys. What Nixon did, he spied on a competitor in a race. Bad thing to do. Illegally accessing documents of a rival during a primary, right? He got caught, Watergate, the whole thing, right? But what they're saying that Donald Trump did is work with not just a foreign power, but a power that we've been in a Cold War with. An outside country in order to manipulate his own country. These are very high allegations. These are very serious allegations, guys. So now, as we get to the end, now that it's over, now that the documents have been turned in, but just before they got turned in, we got Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, saying, well, you know what? We don't want to impeach him. I said, we got Nancy Pelosi saying, we don't want to impeach him. I thought the entire basis of the investigation was to see if you could find grounds to impeach him. At the risk of sounding like some other people, I gotta say, this doesn't make much sense. The Russia investigation, the Robert Mueller investigation, was to find out if Donald Trump committed a very dastardly act upon the American people, upon our very democracy. And now we got Nancy Pelosi saying, hey, you know what? We don't even care we don't care because we're just going to beat them. We're just going to win. We're just going to beat them the old fashioned way. We don't need to impeach them. See, that's not your choice. Folks, I just want to make sure everybody knows it's not the Democrats' choice. If what you allege, you've been alleging to me and all of my subscribers and all of my fans, all my supporters, all of my friends, all of my brothers and my sisters and my cousins and my nephews, you've been alleging to everyone that I know that we have a traitor in the White House who sold us out to the Russians in order to gain power. And you say, well, it's all good. We don't need to find out now. We don't need to know now. Nancy Pelosi does not have the authority to say now, all bets off, we good. Who gave her that authority? Who gave her the authority at the last minute after 3 years of investigations? 3 years. After millions and millions of dollars have been spent for you to say, we don't care now. It's unnecessary. He's just not worth it. Nancy Pelosi said, he's just not worth it. Now, I know I had some people that watch the show who detest Nancy Pelosi for various reasons. Most of them being her corporate ties, her corporate status, her beholdeness to donors and what have you. And of course, that's very much, I totally understand that. But I'm sure there's got to be somebody new tonight in the house who is a fan of Nancy Pelosi. And to that person who's a fan of Nancy Pelosi, or maybe not a fan, just a person who's sort of indifferent to Nancy Pelosi, who feels like there's a little bit of fondness for Nancy Pelosi in some regard, or maybe not fondness on a personal level, but a level of respect, a modicum of respect for a woman who has done much in her career, who seemingly was a trailblazer at one time. So to that person, that's who I'm talking to. Do you really think, this is just me and you talking, everybody else has left the room, do you really think that a genuine human being would support the running up of millions of dollars worth of money on an investigation, a Russia-scare investigation of how, of a foreign country, of Russia, demonizing Russia, of demonizing those who supported Donald Trump as traitors and these horrible individuals who support a president that stole a presidency, who colluded with Russia? Do you think it's acceptable for her to say, we don't care anymore, and her response to be, he's just not worth it? Does that sound like something a respectable person, a person of ethics, integrity would say to you? Does that make sense to you that she would say that? Now, I know we like to make these political figures seem like they're very smart people, that they're enlightened and somehow they're bright, very intelligent. Their IQ levels, we could never, ever get in the realm of their IQ levels. These people are fascinating. They're so gifted and well-versed, and some of them do have book skills. Some of them graduated from the best schools, Harvard, Yale, what have you, Princeton. But if you're like me and you come from another school, a school that doesn't hand out degrees, but it hands out something else called experience, and your alma mater may not have come with bangles that swing from tassels on a funny hat, but it comes from a place called the streets. You can't tell me you don't know when somebody is full of it. Come on now. You got to know when somebody's full of it. If somebody ran over my mailbox, I want to know who did it. If somebody ran over my mailbox and cost me $100 or $200 to replace my mailbox, and then lied about it, I'd want recourse. Nancy Pelosi said, we're going to spend millions of dollars on an investigation. We're going to go on every available cable network. We're going to call in all our chips with all the cable networks all across the country. We're going to go 24/7, sun up to sundown, round the clock, wall to wall, balls to the walls. Russia, 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 Russia. We're going to run fundraiser after fundraiser. Russia, 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 Russia. Sunday morning show, midday show, evening show, or weekend show. Russia, 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 Russia. And you mean to tell me after millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars have been spent, when we come to the final conclusion of said investigation, before we even know what's in the documents, she wants to say, he's not worth it. You accept that. You accept that, YouTube. YouTube, do you accept that? Facebook, do you accept that? Periscope, do you accept that? Blog Talk Radio, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, do you accept that? I don't accept it. The dream of impeaching Donald Trump and demoting him from the White House to Guantanamo Bay began with the president's election 28 months ago. It possesses a struggle to disperse Trump's conspiracy of countless fools, a conspiracy which includes countless conservatives who, as recently as 2 years ago, ridiculed Trump and cited him as exceptionally inept, even dangerous. The impeachment dream is eternal and intensifying, but otherwise unchanging, even as the evidence against Trump and the politics surrounding the president's transform. Congressional Republicans embrace Trump unconditionally. The reasons for Trump's critics to believe Republicans might largely mobilize against Trump have evaporated. The polarization intensifies. The rule of law deteriorates. But at the end of the day, regardless of all of the drivel of the left, all of the chest-pounding, clutch-purling, clinching, the hair on fire, scalp ablaze, racing down the corridors of Washington, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and in small towns all across this country. At the end of the day, they say, he ain't worth a child. Come on, let's go. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to realize they didn't have nothing to begin with. What you have is people who did shady things being caught on things that were shady. But none of it, as I stated from day one, will prove that Donald Trump colluded with Russia to win an election. You don't think it's at all interesting that they've backed off their claims? You know, I remember once upon a time a guy would threaten to knock you out. So I'm going to knock you out. I'm going to kick your butt. And you'd be like, all right, meet me after school. You go after school and he have a change of heart. He didn't have a change of heart because all of a sudden he became nonviolent. No, he had a change of heart because all of a sudden he realized you called him on his bluff and he would have to carry it out. And the truth of the matter was, he couldn't fight. The truth of the matter is, he had no skills. And the truth of the matter is, there was no collusion. What I find more disgusting than the fact that they've been lying for 3 years, or almost 3 years. Yeah, 3 years, because they talked about it way before they brought the actual investigation. So for 3 years, the lie's been told. But now that they so effortlessly, so shamelessly, no shame at all in their game, pretend as if it never happened, and that they are taking the proverbial high road. That's what they're doing. They're taking the high road. See, they're too good for this. They're too good to wallow in the mud with Donald Trump. They're too good to keep at this investigation and try to impeach him. And you weren't going to be able to do it in the first place because you haven't proved that they actually worked with the Russians to steal the election. What you have proved is that Michael Cohen did some stuff with money. What you proven is Manafort, he had some illegal dealings that he didn't disclose. Maybe some tax evasion. Regular things that lawyers and rich bastards have been doing for the last hundreds of years in all walks of business across this country, particularly people in Washington, D.C. You haven't proven anything. And I dare say, guys, if you use the same level of scrutiny on other actors in the Democratic Party who worked on other campaigns at such high levels, I have no doubt in my mind you would find dirt on more people. You would find dirt on different administrations. If you took out a white glove and ran it around the Obama administration and looked into every bit of their business dealings, not just their time in office, some of these charges, some of these infractions, some of the illegalities that they've uncovered go back decades before they even knew who Donald Trump was, before he even ran for presidency. And they're passing that off to an unknowing, disillusioned, confused, distracted, totally pissed off populace. Let's keep it real. As if they actually did due diligence, as if they actually were doing the job for us, when in fact they were doing it to save face. It was a political move all along. It was all for politics. It was never for your safety. It was never for protecting the democracy. This ain't a democracy, it's a republic. And this ain't a democracy, it's an oligarchy. It's been that way for over 100 years. And in fact, and it really kicked in when President Bill Clinton handed the keys over to Wall Street and the bankers with the deregulation. That's what we have. And it wasn't just handed over by Republicans. It was handed over by Democrats. And Democrats don't have a backbone that take it back. And they got Nancy Pelosi pretending to be a leader when all she really is another corporate stooge. And what we have, folks, what we have is the biggest wake-up call. The biggest wake-up call, because like I stated, man, it don't take a rocket scientist. It does not take a Rhodes Scholar. When somebody say they're going to do something, they do it. Someone send you on a goose chase for a couple years and they come back with nothing. Then they come up with excuses why, hey, you know what? We don't need to be looking for that no way anyway. We don't need to look for that no more. What are we looking at that for? What's that all about? We don't want to waste time on that. We got other things to do. You had other things to do last year. You had other things to do 2 years ago. You had other things to do when you first started this. We've been having problems in this country that have been overlooked while you focused on Russia. Rachel Maddow has been made. How much million? Look, get Rachel Maddow to return her salary. We should get MSNBC to refund all of the advertising revenue they've gained, because that's really what it's all about, guys. Over fallacy. Hell, I'd feel better if they were promoting a boxing match, a UFC fight. At least that's a real fight. At least that really goes down. At least that's really a fight. It's really an engaging expedition. Something really happened. I'd rather them cover an actual story that really took place ad nauseum than cover a story that didn't take place and paint all these winding roads of intrigue to try to keep you in suspense. Meanwhile, they stick out the back with the money and putting it in the back of the car, in the back of the truck, in the Brinks truck. That's what they did. Moonves of MSNBC, NBC, right? Said a long time ago. He said in 2016, Donald Trump may not be good for the country, but he's sure good for us, for our bottom line. Love that guy. Love him. They've all loved him. And they still love him. What I would love to see is woke people who say that they woke be truly woke. Be truly woke. You know? Truly woke. I've said this from day one. Because, see, I'm not someone who's interested in... I believe what I believe. I'm not out here to jump left or jump right or line up behind a winning team. I'm on my team. I'm on the Tim team, the Tim Black team, you know? I'm on the people team. I'm on the policy team. That's the team I'm on. I'm on the team of the people and the team of the policies. That's where I'm at. I'm up here for the people. That's where I'm at. All right? But if there was ever any evidence that Trump betrayed the United States, I'd want him impeached. Who wants a treasonous president? I don't. It's just I never believed that's what took place. It's not that I want murderers to be punished. It's that you got to prove it. And we don't do a good job proving it. Money decides who's innocence and guilt in the United States. Too often for me to rely on the justice system that does that. But it's not that I don't want people to be punished or that I don't want law and order. I just want it evenly applied. I want it applied justly. Same thing for Donald Trump. If Donald Trump actually did, remember the original question, it wasn't, is Trump a nice guy? It wasn't, did Trump ever cheat? It wasn't, did Trump ever have business arrangements with Russia? That wasn't the question. The question was, did Trump work with Russia to steal an election? That was the question. That was the premise of the investigation. And when you hear people talk about it, and you're going to hear a lot of talk, it's going to be, because they're going to try to save face. They're going to blame Trump. Oh, the report needs to be released, and he redacted this part, and that part's been redacted. They were never going to impeach Donald Trump. It's all excuses. And if they keep the way they're going, if they run a Beto O'Rourke or a Joe Biden or an Amy Klobuchar or Pete Buttigieg or countless others, Jay Inslee or Hickenlooper, then they'll have more Trump. And you know what? I think they're fine with it too. I don't think they care as much as you think they care. Like if you believe that this investigation was going to lead to Trump's impeachment, then you're really not qualified to have a real opinion about what's going to happen in 2020. See, I believe they're okay. Just like they're okay with not impeaching Trump, they'll be okay with not winning against Trump too. Because at the end of the day, the checks still get written. At the end of the day, the money still goes in the pockets. Get what I'm saying? A Bernie Sanders or a Tulsi Gabbard is their worst nightmare on so many levels. All right, guys, that's it. Now, I want to tell you, the phone number is 319-527-6212. I didn't plan on this tonight. I have like 5 stories. My friend Autumn and I have discussed. She sent me some clippings and some things I wanted to talk about. But the Mueller report, I feel, takes precedence because, frankly, guys, we've been lied to. And I'm at a point where I need some get back from hearing this crap for this long. I'm sure you guys have Russia fatigue at this point. You are Russian out at this point. You are like, don't want to see Russia. You don't want to see no Russia dressing, no Russia musicals. You're just tired of Russia. Somebody tell you to hurry up and rush. You say, what? Say it. Choose another word, please. No, don't say rush. Say something else. Say, hurry, skedaddle, skirmish, expedite. Yeah, expedite. Hey, Thomas. Oh, man. He said Trump belongs in prison. What you mean? Why make noise? What is this guy talking about? He said some covering up for Trump. They did not prove collusion. It's not my fault. They spent millions of dollars. Tom, they spent millions of dollars to prove Trump colluded with Russia. They didn't prove it, bro. I'm not covering for them. I didn't spend millions of dollars. They did. They're the ones who said, hey, look, Nancy told you he ain't worth it. So why you mad at me? Why you got exclamation points at me about the Democrats? Your leader, Nancy Pelosi, said he's not worth it. But you are yelling at me. What the hell are you yelling at me for? Go yell at Nancy Pelosi, brother. My brother. I tell you, man, this is crazy. What is wrong with people? What is wrong with people? That's my Jerry Seinfeld voice. What is wrong with people? I don't understand. These people are crazy.